The transport shuttle's engines hummed to a stop as Ambassador Lee Hana gathered her medical kit and diplomatic papers. She had been traveling for 3 weeks to reach the Zephyrian homeworld, a planet known throughout the galaxy for its beautiful but deadly inhabitants. Earth's government had chosen her carefully for this mission. She was young, only 28, but her background in both medicine and diplomacy made her perfect for first contact with hostile species. As the shuttle doors opened, Hana stepped onto floors that looked like they were made of living glass. The entire palace seemed to breathe around her, with walls that shifted colors from deep blue to bright purple. Strange sounds echoed through the corridors, like wind chimes mixed with whispers. She had studied Zephyrian culture for months, but seeing it in person was completely different. The palace guards watched her with suspicious eyes. Each guard stood nearly 8 feet tall, with thick armor that seemed to grow from their skin. Their weapons hummed with energy that made the air smell like lightning. Hana kept her hands visible and moved slowly, knowing that one wrong move could end her mission before it began. Princess Veltara appeared like a shadow coming to life. Her forearms moved with dangerous grace, and her compound eyes reflected the palace lights like broken mirrors. The princess's skin had a metallic sheen that shifted between silver and gold, and when she spoke, her voice sounded like grinding metal. The translator device around her neck converted her clicking language into words that cut through the air like knives. "Another human diplomat," she said, and the disgust in her voice was clear even through the machine translation. "I suppose. You have come here like all the others before you. You want to demand our mining rights, or perhaps you think you can force us to give you our technology. Maybe you believe you can threaten us into joining your pathetic Earth alliance." The princess moved closer, and Hana could smell something like burning copper mixed with ozone. "So speak your terms quickly, human. Tell me what you want, so I can decide how painful your death should be. My people have dealt with dozens of species who thought they could intimidate us. Their bones decorate my throne room. But instead of backing away or making demands, Hana did something that surprised everyone in the room. She bowed deeply, the way she had learned from studying old Earth customs. When she straightened up, her face showed genuine concern instead of fear. "Your Highness," she said quietly, "I hope I am not being too forward, but I could not help but notice that your guard captain appears to be in pain. The way he is holding his left side suggests he might have internal injuries, possibly from combat. As a trained medic, I would be honored to offer whatever assistance I can provide." The silence that followed was so complete that Hana could hear her own heartbeat. Princess Veltara's compound eyes seemed to freeze in place as she processed what the human had just said. Around the room, guards shifted nervously, unsure how to react to this unexpected development. No species in galactic history had ever offered help without demanding payment first. The very concept was so foreign that the princess's translator seemed to struggle with the words. In Veltara's experience, kindness was always a trap. Every gesture of friendship came with hidden costs. Every offer of aid was really a demand wrapped in pretty words. The princess's forearms slowly uncrossed as she stared at this strange human who seemed to care more about an injured guard than about negotiating treaties or threatening war. Princess Yino. Veltara had assigned her best spy, Commander Thekmor, to follow the human everywhere. For 3 straight days, he reported back with the same impossible story. The human diplomat was helping people without asking for anything in return. This had never happened before in the princess's lifetime, or in the lifetime of any Zephyrian. She knew. On the first day, Hana had spent 4 hours treating Captain Zondar's wounds. The guard captain had been injured in a training accident 2 weeks earlier, and the royal doctors said he would need months to heal properly. But the human used strange medicines from her kit and showed techniques that reduced his pain immediately. When Zondar tried to offer payment, Hana just smiled and said she was happy to help. The second day brought even stranger behavior. The Palace's main water filtration system had been making terrible noises for weeks. The engineering team said it would take expensive replacement parts and at least a month to fix. But Hana asked to look at it, then spent the entire afternoon crawling through maintenance tunnels with nothing but basic tools. By evening, clean water was flowing again. When the chief engineer asked what Earth wanted in exchange, Hana looked, confused and said the system just needed better maintenance. The third day was the most suspicious of all. Hana noticed that food was spoiling quickly in the palace kitchens, causing waste and sometimes making servants sick. She spent hours teaching the kitchen staff simple preservation methods that humans had used for thousands of years: salt curing, proper storage temperatures, fermentation techniques that could make food last months instead of days. The head cook was amazed and tried to give Hana valuable spices as payment. The human politely refused and said she enjoyed sharing knowledge. Princess Veltara watched all of this through hidden cameras and spy reports. Each act of kindness made her more suspicious and angry. This had to be some kind of elaborate trick. Maybe the humans were planning to poison the water system later. Perhaps they were gathering information about palace security by helping the guards. The food preservation knowledge could be a way to gain access to the kitchens for assassination attempts. During the evening meal on the third day, Veltara could not contain her frustration any longer. The dining hall was filled with courtiers and advisors, all wondering what the humans' real plan could be. The princess slammed her 4 fists on the crystal table, making the dishes jump and causing everyone to fall silent. "What is your game?" "Human," she demanded, her voice echoing off the palace walls. No species in the galaxy helps others without expecting something in return. Every alliance costs something. Every favor requires payment. Even my own people would not waste time helping strangers unless they gained power or resources from it. She stood up, towering over the seated human. "Are you gathering intelligence for an invasion? Are you trying to make my people dependent on Earth technology? Do you think this pathetic display of kindness will make us lower our defenses? Tell me, what you really want from us." Hana looked up at the angry princess with genuine confusion in her eyes. She set down her eating utensils and spoke in the same calm voice she had used for 3 days. "Your Highness, I truly want nothing from you or your people. These were simply things that needed doing. People were hurt, systems were broken, knowledge could be shared. Why would I need a reason beyond that?" The princess's anger flared even hotter. Such elaborate deception was not just suspicious, it was insulting. Did this human think the Zephyrians were fools? Did she believe that acting innocent would somehow trick an entire civilization that had survived by being suspicious of everyone? Princess Veltara decided she had waited long enough. If this human was playing some elaborate game, she would force her to show her true colors. The princess began creating situations that would surely reveal what the human really wanted. No one could maintain such a perfect act of kindness when faced with real costs and serious challenges. The first test came when a kitchen servant named Dalni approached Hana with tears in her eyes. Her young son had fallen ill with crystal fever, a common but dangerous disease among Zephyrian children. The medicine needed to cure it cost more than Dalni made in 6 months. Most species would simply ignore such a request from a lowly servant, but Veltara wanted to see how far this human deception would go. When Dalni explained her situation, Hana immediately opened her personal medical kit. She pulled out several vials of human medicine that could treat similar conditions. "These should help reduce his fever and pain," she said, handing over supplies worth thousands of credits. "I also have some nutrients that might boost his immune system." Dalni could not believe what was happening. She tried to offer her family's small savings as payment, but Hana refused. "Just take care of your son," the human said with a warm smile. "That is payment enough for me." Princess Veltara watched this interaction through security cameras, her 4 hands clenched into fists. The human had just given away valuable medical supplies to save a servant's child. This made no strategic sense at all. What kind of long-term plan could justify such waste? The second test came 3 days later. A mining accident on the nearby moon had left 200 Zephyrian workers homeless. Their company had abandoned them, and the local government said it would take weeks to arrange proper housing. Veltara presented this crisis to Hana during their morning meeting, expecting the human to make excuses or suggest that someone else should handle the problem. Instead, Hana immediately contacted her ship and requested emergency supplies. Within hours, human-designed shelter pods were being delivered to the moon's surface. Hana spent the next 2 days working with refugee families, helping them set up temporary homes using Earth's disaster response protocols. She taught them how to purify water, preserve food, and maintain basic hygiene in emergency conditions. When the local news services covered the story, they praised the mysterious human who had solved a crisis that their own government could not handle. Veltara watched the coverage with growing confusion and anger. The human was making Zephyrian. Authorities look incompetent, while gaining positive publicity for Earth. This had to be part of some political manipulation. The third test pushed things even further. Veltara arranged for her personal physician to approach Hana about a rare medical condition affecting elderly Zephyrians. The treatment required expensive equipment that only existed on a few advanced worlds. Most diplomats would have suggested trade negotiations or technology exchanges to access such resources, but Hana spent hours researching the condition using her personal computer, then contacted medical experts on Earth through quantum communication. She arranged for Earth doctors to share their knowledge freely and even offered to have specialized equipment shipped to the Zephyrian world at no cost. Medical knowledge should belong to everyone, she explained. Diseases do not care about politics or borders. By now, the entire royal court was talking about the strange human behavior. Advisors whispered in corners about what this could mean for galactic security. Some suggested that humans must have developed perfect mind control technology. Others believed that Earth was so wealthy they could afford to give away resources. As part of some vast psychological warfare campaign, she must be the most dangerous individual we have ever encountered, whispered General Kethrol to his fellow officers. Her manipulation is so sophisticated that even our best analysts cannot detect the deception. Humans must be planning something truly terrible if they are willing to invest this much in their cover story. Princess Veltara felt her suspicion transforming into something approaching rage. Every act of kindness felt like an insult to her intelligence. Did this human really think that Zephyrians were so stupid they would fall for such obvious manipulation? The ceremonial hunt was supposed to be a celebration of Prince Velkun's upcoming 20th birthday. The young prince was beloved by everyone. In the palace, known for his gentle nature and curiosity about other worlds, unlike his suspicious sister, Velkun had been genuinely interested in learning about human culture from Hana during her stay. The hunting party had been tracking crystal stags through the palace's vast gardens when everything went wrong. Prince Velkun suddenly stumbled, his breathing becoming rapid and shallow. His metallic skin, normally a bright gold like his sister's, began turning a sickly grey color. Within minutes, he collapsed completely, convulsing on the ground while foam appeared at his mouth. The royal physicians rushed him to the medical wing, but their examinations revealed devastating news. Prince Velkun was suffering from genetic cascade failure, a rare condition that affected less than 1 in a million Zephyrians. The disease caused the body's cellular structure to break down from the inside out. No Zephyrian medicine could treat it, and death usually came within days. Princess Veltara stood beside her brother's bed, watching him struggle to breathe. For the first time since Hana's arrival, her anger was replaced by something else entirely: desperate fear. Velkun was not just her brother, he was her closest friend and the only family member who truly understood her. The thought of losing him made her feel hollow inside. Hana appeared in the doorway, having heard about the emergency from palace staff. She took one look at the prince's condition and immediately activated her emergency communicator. "I need Dr. Park Jinwoo here." "Immediately," she said into the device. "Tell him it's a genetic cascade situation and to bring the full medical kit." Dr. Park arrived on the next transport ship just 18 hours later. He was a specialist in genetic disorders who had volunteered to support Earth's diplomatic mission. Together, he and Hana began working around the clock to save the prince's life. For 72 hours straight, neither human slept or rested. They converted the prince's room into a makeshift laboratory, bringing in equipment from their ship and setting up genetic sequencing devices. Hana drew samples of her own blood for compatibility testing, while Dr. Park worked on creating modified treatments based on human genetic research. Princess Veltara watched everything from a chair beside her brother's bed. She saw Hana carefully monitoring every change in Velkun's condition, adjusting treatments every few hours based on his body's responses. She watched Dr. Park share decades of research data with the Zephyrian physicians, teaching them techniques that Earth had developed over centuries of fighting genetic diseases. The humans worked with an intensity that amazed everyone in the palace. They refused food, ignored their own exhaustion, and focused completely on saving one Zephyrian prince they had known for less than a week. Palace staff brought them coffee and energy drinks, but the humans barely acknowledged the gestures of support. On the second day, Prince Velkun's condition worsened dramatically. His fever spiked to dangerous levels, and the royal physicians whispered that death was probably only hours away. But Hana and Dr. Park continued working, trying experimental treatments and sharing research with genetic specialists on Earth through quantum communication. Finally, on the morning of the third day, something changed. Prince Velkun's fever began, dropping slowly but steadily. His breathing became easier, and the grey color started fading from his skin. By afternoon, he was able to open his eyes and speak a few words. The crisis had passed. When Dr. Park confirmed that the prince was truly recovering, Princess Veltara felt something break inside her chest. She had spent days watching two humans risk everything to save her brother's life. They had shared their post-advanced medical knowledge, used their personal resources, and worked themselves to exhaustion for no reason except that someone needed help. The rage that had been building for weeks suddenly erupted like a volcano. Princess Veltara had been holding back her emotions for 3 straight days, watching. These humans worked tirelessly to save her brother, but seeing Velkun finally breathing normally, his skin returning to its healthy golden color, broke something deep inside her. All the confusion, suspicion and anger she had been carrying exploded outward, like a star going supernova. Enough! Her voice carried such fury that the crystal goblets on nearby tables actually cracked and shattered. Medical equipment throughout. The room started beeping wildly as her emotional outburst interfered with their sensors. Palace guards came running, thinking they were under attack, but stopped when they saw their princess standing over the 2 exhausted humans. Dr. Park stepped back instinctively, recognizing the dangerous tone in her voice even through the translator. But Hana remained calmly beside Prince Velkun's bed, gently adjusting his blanket and checking the readings on the monitoring devices. Her movements were slow and careful, showing just how tired she was after working for 72 hours without real rest. "What do you want?" Princess Veltara demanded, her forearms gesturing wildly as she spoke. "Stop this ridiculous act and tell me your real demands. Do you want mining rights to our richest asteroid fields? Are you planning to demand military bases in our territory? Perhaps you think saving my brother's life gives you the right to control our trade routes?" The princess moved closer, towering over the seated human. Her compound eyes blazed with reflected light from the medical equipment, and her metallic skin shifted colors rapidly as her emotions surged. "Maybe you want exclusive access to our crystal technology, or perhaps you expect us to become a colony of Earth. Whatever your price is, name it now. Stop pretending you did this out of kindness." Hana looked up slowly, her face showing the exhaustion of someone who had pushed herself beyond all reasonable limits. Dark circles surrounded her eyes, and her hands trembled slightly from fatigue and stress. But her voice remained steady and calm as she answered, "Your Highness, we want nothing from you except for your brother to recover fully and live a long, healthy life. That is truly all we desire from this situation." "Lies!" The princess's shout was so loud that Prince Velkun stirred slightly in his bed, though he remained asleep. No species in the entire galaxy acts without expecting something in return. Every favor requires payment. Every alliance comes with conditions. Every act of so-called kindness hides a demand for power or resources. She began pacing back and forth beside the medical bed, her movements sharp and agitated. "My people have dealt with dozens of different species over the centuries. The Corians helped us fight a plague, then demanded exclusive trading rights. For 50 years. The Nexans shared military technology with us, then expected us to join their war against 3 other systems. Even the peaceful Drakmari offered us agricultural knowledge, but only in exchange for access to our most sacred historical sites. Dr. Park watched this outburst with fascination and concern. He had studied alien psychology during his medical training, but he had never seen such raw emotion from a member of a supposedly advanced civilization. The princess was clearly struggling with concepts that went against everything she had been taught about interspecies relations. Every single relationship in galactic politics is based on mutual benefit, Veltara continued, her voice cracking slightly. Species help each other only when they gain something valuable in return. That is how civilization works. That is how we have survived and thrived among the stars for thousands of years. She stopped pacing and stared directly at Hana, her forearms crossed tightly across her chest. So what is your deception, human? What elaborate manipulation are you running? Are you so confident in your military power that you think you can afford to pretend kindness? Are your resources so vast that saving one alien prince means nothing to your economy? Hana's quiet response cut through all the anger and confusion like a blade through silk. Your Highness, there is no deception here. We help because it is the right thing to do. We save lives because every life has value. We share knowledge because wisdom grows when it is given freely. The medical bay fell completely silent, except for the soft beeping of Prince Velkun's monitoring equipment. Princess Veltara stared at the human woman as if she had just spoken in an unknown language. Over the next several days, as Prince Velkun slowly recovered his strength, Princess Veltara found herself spending more and more time in the medical bay. She told herself she was there to watch over her brother, but truthfully, she was fascinated by the humans who had saved his life. She had never encountered beings quite like them before. Hana seemed to sense the princess's curiosity and began sharing stories about Earth during the long hours of keeping watch over the recovering prince. She spoke in simple terms, painting pictures with words that helped Veltara understand a completely different way of thinking about life and survival. Long ago, when humans were just beginning to develop as a species, we were not the strongest creatures on our planet, Hana explained one evening. We did not have sharp claws like great cats or thick armor like giant reptiles, or powerful muscles like the massive beasts that roamed our world. We were actually quite weak and vulnerable compared to most other animals. Princess Veltara leaned forward, genuinely interested despite herself. Most species, she knew, had evolved by becoming bigger, stronger, or more aggressive than their competitors. The idea of a weak species surviving long enough to develop intelligence was almost impossible to believe. "So how did your people survive?" she asked. "Did you develop better weapons? Did you learn to hide from stronger predators?" Hana smiled softly. "We learned something much more powerful than weapons or armor. We learned to work together. When one human was injured, others would care for them until they healed. When food was scarce, we shared what little we had so that everyone could survive. When children were born, the entire community helped raise them, not just their parents." The princess's compound eyes widened with disbelief. "But that makes no sense from a survival perspective. Caring for the weak uses resources that could go to the strong. Sharing food means less for yourself. Helping raise other people's children takes time away from improving your own position." "That's exactly what we thought would happen," Hana continued. "But something amazing occurred instead. When we cared for injured members of our group, they recovered and became productive again, making our entire community stronger. When we shared food during hard times, we all survived periods that might have killed us individually. When we raised children together, they grew up learning from many different adults, becoming smarter and more capable." Dr. Park, who had been quietly monitoring Prince Velkun's vital signs, joined the conversation. "Our scientists have studied this for centuries. They call it cooperative evolution. Species that learn to help each other actually become more successful than species that compete only among themselves." Princess Veltara shook her head slowly. This went against everything she had been taught about survival and evolution. Her own people, the Zephyrians, had evolved from pack hunters who lived in constant competition with each other. Only the strongest survived to reproduce, and showing weakness meant death. Kindness was a luxury that their ancestors could never afford. Most species in the galaxy evolved the same way my people did, she said thoughtfully. We learned that helping others was dangerous because it showed weakness. Every favor given meant owing a debt. Every alliance formed required constant vigilance to prevent betrayal. Hana nodded understandingly. We know that most civilizations developed that way. It makes perfect sense for species that evolved through competition and conflict. But humans discovered something different. We found that empathy and cooperation were not weaknesses, they were our greatest strengths. You are saying that humans help others just to help them? Veltara asked incredulously. Not because you expect payment, or because you want to create debts, or because you are planning some future advantage. Yes, Your Highness, Hana replied simply. That is exactly what makes us human. The emergency alert came through the palace communication system at exactly 14:30 local time, interrupting a quiet afternoon as Prince Velkun was finally able to sit up and eat solid food. The harsh warning tones echoed through the medical bay, causing everyone to look up with concern. Princess Veltara activated the main display screen, revealing a desperate message from the Corian system. The star at the center of their solar system had become unstable, producing massive solar flares that were growing stronger by the hour. 3 inhabited planets with a combined population of over 40 million people were directly in the path of these deadly energy bursts. The first planet, Coria Prime, housed the system's government and largest cities. The second planet contained vast agricultural colonies that fed dozens of nearby systems. The third was a mining world where families had lived for generations, extracting rare minerals from deep underground. All 3 worlds would be completely uninhabitable within days if the solar flares continued growing in intensity. Hana immediately moved to the communication console, her medical training giving her experience with emergency situations. She could see the fear in the broadcast from Corian officials as they explained that their planetary shields were already failing under the assault of radiation and electromagnetic pulses. The Galactic Council has been notified, announced the Corian Chancellor, his image flickering as solar interference disrupted the transmission. We are requesting immediate evacuation assistance from any species with available transport capabilities. Time is running out for our people. Princess Veltara switched the display to show the Galactic Council's emergency session, which was already underway. Representatives from dozens of species were gathered in the Great Assembly Hall, but instead of organizing rescue efforts, they were arguing about bureaucratic procedures and territorial rights. The Nexan delegate was demanding to know who would pay for fuel costs if they provided transport ships. The Drakmari representative insisted that any rescue operation must respect their claimed territory in nearby systems. The powerful Zenthari Empire suggested that this was an excellent opportunity to negotiate new trade agreements with desperate Corian survivors. This is madness, Princess Veltara muttered, watching species debate legal technicalities while millions of people faced certain death. They are treating this crisis like a business opportunity instead of a humanitarian emergency. Even her own people's representative was participating in the delays, asking what the Zephyrian Empire might gain from participating in rescue operations. The princess felt ashamed as she watched her diplomat calculate potential profits from helping dying civilians. But then something extraordinary happened. While the Galactic Council continued their debates, Earth's response came through official channels. There were no demands for payment, no negotiations about territorial rights, and no questions about what humanity might gain from helping. Instead, there was simply action. Captain Kim Daeho's fleet was already in space within 2 hours of receiving the distress signal. 12 massive evacuation ships, normally used for exploring new star systems, had been rapidly converted to carry civilian refugees. Medical ships followed close behind, staffed with doctors and emergency supplies. Engineering vessels came last, carrying equipment to help stabilize failing planetary shields and buy more time for evacuation efforts. Princess Veltara watched the tactical display in amazement as human ships moved with coordinated precision toward the Corian system. There had been no committee meetings, no cost-benefit analyses, and no political negotiations. Earth's government had simply ordered their ships to help save lives. "Captain Kim," came a transmission from the lead human vessel. "We are approaching Korean space with full evacuation capabilities. Our medical teams are prepared to treat radiation exposure, and our engineers are ready to reinforce your planetary shields. What assistance do you need most urgently?" The Korean officials could barely believe what they were hearing. No species had ever responded to a crisis this quickly without first demanding guarantees of payment or political concessions. "This is how humans operate," Hannah explained quietly as they watched the rescue operation unfold on screen. "When people are in danger, we respond with aid, not negotiation. We see crisis as a time for helping, not for creating opportunities to gain advantage over others." Princess Veltara realized she was witnessing something that had never happened in galactic history, a species responding to emergency with pure altruism. Over the next week, Princess Veltara found herself glued to the communication screens, watching the Korean rescue operation unfold in ways that challenged everything she thought she knew about how different species interacted. What she witnessed was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. The human evacuation fleet had arrived first, but they were soon joined by ships from other species who had finally been shamed into action by Earth's immediate response. The Nexan Empire sent 3 cargo vessels, though their representatives made it clear they expected full compensation later. The Drakmari contributed 2 medical ships, but only after securing promises about territorial boundaries. Even the mighty Zenthari arrived with a small fleet, though they spent most of their time negotiating exclusive rights to evacuate wealthy Korean citizens first. What amazed Princess Veltara was how Captain Kim Dae-ho treated these arriving ships. The Nexans had been at war with Earth just 5 years earlier, fighting over mining rights in the Outer Rim. The Drakmari had refused to trade with humans for decades, considering them too primitive to deserve respect. The Zenthari had repeatedly blocked Earth's applications to join advanced galactic organizations. But when these former enemies arrived in Korean space, the human captain welcomed them like old friends. He immediately shared Earth's evacuation protocols, detailed maps of safe transport routes, and technical specifications for emergency shelters. There were no demands for apologies about past conflicts, no requirements for future cooperation, and no attempts to gain political advantage from the situation. "Nexan vessel Stormrider, this is Captain Kim," came the transmission that Princess Veltara heard through the palace's communication system. "We have refugee camps set up on Korea's third moon. Our medical teams have identified the most efficient treatment protocols for radiation exposure. I'm transmitting all our data to you now, no restrictions." The Nexan captain sounded confused in his response. "Captain Kim, are you not concerned that we might use this medical information for our own benefit later? These treatment protocols could be worth millions of credits in the civilian market." "Captain Thelnock's people are dying," Kim replied simply. "Medical knowledge should be shared freely in emergencies. We can worry about patents and profits after everyone is safe." Similar conversations played out with every arriving ship. Drakmari expected to be assigned separate rescue zones to avoid conflicts with other species, but Captain Kim integrated their medical ships directly into the human fleet. The Zenthari demanded priority access to the wealthiest refugees, but Kim insisted that evacuation proceed based on medical need and family groups, not social status. Most surprisingly, when Princess Veltara's own government finally decided to send assistance, the Zephyrian ships were welcomed without any suspicion or hostility. Captain Kim personally transmitted all rescue coordination data to Commander Zethrol, her people's fleet leader, and asked where Zephyrian ships could be most helpful. "We appreciate your assistance, Commander," Kim said during the initial contact. "Your ships have excellent cargo capacity for large family groups. Would you be willing to coordinate with our evacuation teams on Korea Prime? We have about 50,000 civilians who need transport to safety." Commander Zethrol had been prepared for demands, negotiations, or attempts to place Zephyrian ships under human command. Instead, he found himself working as an equal partner in the largest rescue operation in galactic history. What struck Princess Veltara most deeply was how the human approach seemed to transform the behavior of other species. Ships that normally would have competed for the best evacuation zones instead began coordinating their efforts. Medical teams that usually guarded their techniques jealously started sharing treatment methods freely. Even the profit-focused Zenthari began prioritizing civilian safety over political gain. "Your people are either the most dangerous in the galaxy," Veltara told Hana, as they watched another successful evacuation transport dock at a refugee station, "or the most evolved," Hana replied with a sad smile that carried the weight of understanding. How difficult it was for other species to comprehend human motivations. "Perhaps both, Your Highness, perhaps both." 3 weeks after the last Korean refugee had been safely relocated to temporary homes on nearby worlds, Princess Veltara sat in her private chambers reviewing reports that seemed almost impossible to believe. The crisis had ended with 0 casualties among 43 million evacuated civilians. More importantly, it had been accomplished through a level of interspecies cooperation that historians were calling unprecedented in galactic civilization. The numbers told an incredible story. 12 different species had contributed ships, supplies, or expertise to the rescue effort. Traditional enemies had worked side by side without a single conflict. Resources worth billions of credits had been shared freely without contracts or payment agreements. Most amazingly, not one species had tried to take advantage of the crisis for political or economic gain. But Princess Veltara knew the real story was not in the statistics. The real story was in how human behavior had somehow convinced other species to act against their own established nature. The Nexans had shared medical technology they normally kept secret. The Drakmari had opened their sacred temple worlds as temporary refugee centers. Even the ruthless Zenthari had provided food and supplies without demanding compensation. Prince Velkun, now fully recovered and stronger than ever, had spent the past week interviewing refugees who had been processed through human evacuation centers. Their stories were remarkably similar. Human rescue workers had treated everyone with the same care and respect, regardless of their species, social status, or ability to pay. Families had been kept together. Medical needs had been prioritized over political considerations. Fear had been replaced with hope through simple acts of kindness. "Sister," Velkun had told her just that morning, "I think we have been looking at galactic civilization completely wrong. We have been so focused on protecting ourselves from others that we never considered what might happen if we tried to protect others instead." This conversation had led Princess Veltara to make a decision. That would have seemed impossible just a month earlier. She sent a formal request through diplomatic channels, asking for a private audience with Ambassador Hana. Not for negotiations or treaty discussions, but for a personal conversation between two individuals who had learned to see each other as more than representatives of their respective species. The meeting took place in the palace's Garden of Reflection, a peaceful space filled with crystalline plants that sang softly in the evening breeze. Princess Veltara had chosen this location deliberately, wanting their conversation to happen away from the formal protocol rooms where diplomacy usually occurred. When Hana arrived, she looked tired but satisfied. The past month had been exhausting, for her as well, coordinating between Earth's government and the ongoing refugee resettlement efforts, but there was something peaceful in her expression that had not been there during those first tense days of her arrival. "Ambassador Hana," Princess Veltara began, then stopped and shook her head. "No, I think this conversation should happen between Veltara and Hana, not between a princess and a diplomat." Hana smiled and settled onto one of the crystal benches. "I would like that very much." For a moment they sat in comfortable silence, listening to the singing plants and watching the palace's twin moons rise over the horizon. Then Princess Veltara spoke in a voice that carried none of the hostility or suspicion that had marked their early interactions. "I owe you an apology," she began, her 4 hands folded carefully in her lap. "I spent so long looking for your hidden agenda, searching for your secret motives, trying to discover what you really wanted from us, that I completely missed what was right in front of me. I couldn't see your heart because I was too busy analyzing your strategy." Hana reached out and gently clasped the princess's primary hand, a gesture that would have been considered dangerous just weeks earlier. "No apology is needed, Veltara. Understanding is enough. You reacted exactly as anyone would when faced with something completely outside their experience. But that is exactly the problem, Veltara continued. My entire species, my entire civilization, operates on the assumption that kindness is weakness and that every gesture hides a demand. We have built our society around suspicion and self-protection because that is how we survived for thousands of years. She paused, looking up at the stars visible through the garden's crystal dome. But watching your people during the Korean crisis showed me something I had never considered before. What if there is a better way to exist among the stars? What if cooperation based on genuine care is actually stronger than alliances based on fear and mutual benefit?